Hello, I think we're recording now. Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use keyboard input with this 2D physics engine which I've got set up in the previous video. I'll put a link in the description to how to get this set up. But I'll also put a link into this code. So whatever we make here, I'll give you a link there so you don't have to start from scratch. Okay, so what we've got so far is a very simple program. It's 26 lines long, and all it's done is set up this little scene. So you've got a 2D physics engine made for you, some simple objects. We've got two objects, one static, one dynamic. But what we want to do is, instead of being able to drag it with a mouse, or in addition to being able to drag it, we want to be able to use up, down, left and right to move this ball. The first thing I'm going to do though is make him a bit smaller. So this is where I create the circle. New object, circle. The first argument is where it's created on the x-axis, and the second argument is on the y. Sorry, I just had a brain freeze. And then the last, this is the important component, this is how big it's going to be. So I'm going to make him maybe 10. What? Where did that symbol come from? Right, 10. There he is. He looks really cute now. He looks deliciously cute. There he is. Okay, so we want to be able to move him using the keys. So, in our game loop, or simulation loop, which is here, the draw function just loops around and around. During the game, we want to continuously kind of check to see if a key's being pressed down. So I'm going to make a function called check input. Well, check keys, because we're only looking at the keys, not dealing with mouse or touch input here. So I need to actually go and make that function. So I'll just make it down here. Function check check keys. And in here we'll do the code for that. So I am using the P5 library for graphics, but also input. And they've got a keyword or function called key is down, which if you pass in there which key you want to check for, this will return true or false. Okay, so I can write an if statement. If this key is down, then do whatever I'm going to put in these curly brackets. So I want to check let's check the up arrow first, see if we can make him jump. Up arrow. So again, this like keyword is, or what would you call it, like a I can't remember, well, we'll call it a keyword. This keyword has been preset by the P5 library. It's not inherent to JavaScript. So key is down, up arrow, do this. So I want to be able to grab this ball. Now, how do I do that? Well, in the last video, we changed the static nature of the rectangle by using the last object created function, which just grabs hold of the last object created, which was a rectangle, and then I can make it static or change its color and things like that. What I really want to do is be able to grab hold of the object via a variable. So I want to put the object into a variable, just like we put a number into a variable. So first, let's create ourselves a global variable, so outside all the functions. And we want to, what can we call this ball? Plip. I think he's called Plip. Let Plip. So, we've got a variable. Now, when we've created our circle, our little Plip, we want to say Plip equals, and how would you get hold of the object? You use redhenphysics.lastObjectCreated function. And all that function does is return the last object that was created. So we only have to do that once here, and now Plip holds this object. So now we don't have to refer to the last object created anymore, we just refer to Plip. So in check keys, I can say Plip dot, let's just change his color. Let's just say fill equals, fill is a P5 function, and that just means the color that we fill the shape with, equals color, American spelling, and then red, green, blue. So let's make him red for up. So maybe 101, nothing on green, nothing on blue, and right. So I can throw him around, doesn't change color. If I press down, doesn't change color. Up, changes color. It worked. It actually worked. Just try and disguise how happy I am that it worked first time. I want it a bit brighter actually. Let's try 172. 172. Up. Oh, that's a nice red. There we go. Like a strawberry red. So, instead of just, I'm going to leave the fill colour actually there. That'd be quite nice. Instead of that, we want to say Plip add force. Now, it's not just a number that you put into this argument or this parameter. We want a vector, and we want a vector that points up. So we kind of want to go and make those vectors at the start of the program. So I'll do that in setup, and let's make a function called create or set vectors. There we go. And then just here, set vectors. And all I'm going to do is use a P5 function called create vector, and I just want to create vectors for up, down, left, and right. So I'm going to say up equals create vector 0 on the x and -1 on the y, which is up. Down is going to be the opposite of that, and then left and right, I'm just going to swap the axes around. So down, left, and right. So down is going to be +1 on the y-axis, left is going to be -1 on the x-axis, 0 on the y-axis, and right, +1 and 0 on the y-axis. Okay, so I've set up my vectors. So these up, down, left, and right, those variables now just point in different directions. I want to make those global, so I better make them up here near Plip. So let up, let down, let left, let right. I could have made equals create vector up here, but I don't know if it works actually before you've gone into setup using P5. I don't know. Experiment and see if it works. And leave a comment. I'd like to find out if you like. Okay, so we've got the vectors. So back into check keys, we can now add force up. But if I try that, I imagine little Plip's going to fly off because 1 is a massive number when dealing with this particular physics engine. Let's just look up. So it's just kind of teleported. That's way too strong. So let's make a temporary variable called force, and let's say force equals up. Now, so I want to kind of multiply it by a tiny number, something like that. But you can't just multiply a vector in this way. I don't think, or can you? Let's try that. Let's see if that works. Save. Right. Up. No, it just kind of disappears again. So let's change our syntax here. Mult 0.05. Just see if this works. No. Force equals up. Then I want to say force multiply. Force needs to be a vector as well. Force let force equals create vector. I'm just anticipating bugs, sorry. Force is now a vector. If I leave no parameters there, it default to 0, 0. Force now equals up. Now I want to multiply this vector by 0.005. Let's just see if this now works. Okay. So that's now worked perfectly. Maybe I'll make it a bit stronger. Oh, it doesn't seem to happen. If I press it the first time, it kind of works, and it doesn't work the second time. Now, what's going on there? Force equals up. I'm not changing up, am I? What's going on here? I've just seen a much easier way of doing this. Let's say force equals 0 minus 1. So I'm not using that up business. So basically, each time I press it now, I'm redefining it. Okay. Notice how my articulate commentary has stalled completely as I'm trying to think this out. There we go, that's working lovely. And it's really, really strong. So I keep fiddling, sorry, with these amounts. There we go, that's lovely. Okay. So we can press the up key and we can move them around. If you keep pressing it down, it's going to create a larger force. That's quite satisfying to play with. Okay, so what I'm going to do is delete all of this nonsense. I thought that was going to help. It hasn't. What was basically going wrong there, sorry, when my speech broke down, was I think when I was saying force equals up, I was actually pointing force, or pointing through force, into the vector object up, and every time I was multiplying up, I was making it smaller and smaller and smaller. So the second time, the third time, the fourth time you press up, that vector is massively diminished. We're just dividing its magnitude. So I think it's something to do with the way JavaScript there was, and P5 was kind of handling and relating those objects to one another. So here, we're just making force equal this vector every time we want to use it, and we're kind of refreshing it. So after we've multiplied it, next time we hit up arrow, we're resetting it to its original magnitude. Hope that made sense. Sorry, that was a bit rambling. But there we go. So what I'm just going to do is close the gaps here, and then we're going to go up, down, left, and right. Okay, and we could fill Plip with a different colour. Oh, I've deleted something and made it go wrong. What have I done? Oh no. What have I deleted that's made it go wrong? Check keys. I imagine it's something. Set vectors. There we go. I'm making a function call to a function that doesn't exist. Hopefully this will return. Okay, and does up still work? Yes, okay. Right. So we just want to reproduce this 4 times. Down, up, down, left, and right. So right. Right. Let's make it go green. What was that, 160, something like that? Did I put 172? Force. So all I have to do is change the direction. So if I'm going right, I want to go +1 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. That one's done. So this is going to be left. So I want to go -1 on the x-axis and 0 again on the y. And I want to make this, is it blue? 172. And down. Don't know what colour to make him. Let's just make him go black, I guess. Be scary. Black. And that wants to go +1 on the y-axis. Right. Save. This should work this time. This should be fine. Okay. And can I go down? Yes. Brilliant. So you've got keyboard input. And we've changed some colours and things like that. Final thing I'm going to do in this video is just remind you to how to make another object, plus that'll be more fun for interaction. So what we'll do is, let's say when we press the key, so press the mouse, we'll create a little square or a little box. So I'm going to use the P5 function called mouse pressed. So function mouse pressed. So this function is kind of event based. So every time you press the mouse, this function runs once through. And to create an object, I need red hen physics new object. So I'm going to copy that. So every time you want to create an object, you'll use this syntax. So the first parameter is what kind of object, and I want a square. And now I just need to tell it where to appear and what size. So let's use the mouse position. So standard keywords, mouse X and mouse Y, is what P5 places the mouse position in. So it'll appear wherever you're clicking. And then the size, let's make it random. So I'm going to use math.random. It's quicker than the P5 random function. So that function will return a number between 0 and 1, or an amount between 0 and 1. And then you just multiply it to scale it up to the maximum you want. So let's say 20, 30, 30, 42 answer to everything. 42. And we want to change its color. So we want it to go kind of like white, I think. So we want that last object created function. There we go. Last object created fill equals color 255. If you just put one number in there, one parameter, it'll be 255 red, 255 green, 255 blue. Okay, and now, as you see, as I click, I'm creating some squares, and much more fun to kind of, oh, some tiny ones as well, much more fun to kind of bash around and things like this. Okay, right, there you go. Hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything out that you want to see. But you have here almost all the components that you kind of need for making a game with this 2D physics engine. I think all I've got to really add is, so that you can really get things going, is collisions. So I think next video I'll show you, using this system, how to interact with different kind of collisions between these objects. Right, thank you very much.